As part of my ongoing series trying to save you from spending stupid amounts of money on someone else fixing your iPhone for you, here is how to replace the screen on your iPhone 6s. First up, you need to purchase a kit. Again, the one I used is linked below, but choose the one based on the color of the front of your device when you are choosing one. Then we're gonna remove the 2 hex screws at the bottom of the iPhone using the included screwdriver that came with the kit. Then we're gonna take the suction cup to pull up the screen while wedging the pry tool under to lift it up. If that doesn't work, you could try a sharper object. Just be careful not to scratch the phone. Also, put the suction cup not over the home button. If you do that, it creates a little pocket of air and you'll lose suction. Pull the screen back once we get it up. Do not pass 90 degrees though. You will damage the cables holding the screen to the motherboard, and that would be bad. Then we're gonna screw the 4 screws holding the metal plate that has the screen cables underneath. Then we'll set that aside. Always place the screws, by the way, next to the hole that they came out of when you take any part out of the phone, because not all the screws are the same, and this will save you a big headache later. Then we're gonna pop off the connectors using either the pry tool or your finger, and we can set the bottom half of the phone aside. Okay, now comes the most difficult part, for the most part, is removing all of the parts from the old screen that are missing on the new screen. So for example, the earpiece stuff at the top, the home button, this metal bracket on the back, etc. So to get started doing that, we're gonna undo the 3 screws holding in the earpiece and set those aside, along with the metal bracket that was over the earpiece. Just be careful not to rip the small ribbon that comes off of the bottom of that bracket. Then we can pull back the camera and set the earpiece aside, and then carefully peel the cables and all their attached components from the screen. Be very careful not to rip them, and then set those aside as well. Next, we can pry off the 2 pieces of plastic and the rubber piece that the earpiece was sitting in from under those components, and set them all aside as well. Remove the metal backing by undoing the screws on either side. There are 3 on each side, and then 1 at the top and 1 at the bottom. Then you'll have to carefully peel the adhesive at the top of the metal bracket to get it off entirely, and just be careful not to rip that. Then, once that's done, we can remove the metal backing entirely and set it aside as well. Undo the home button bracket by removing the 2 screws at the bottom and set the screws aside, along with the metal bracket. Again, keep track of what screw goes in what hole because they can be different sizes. Then we can push the home button from the front, and that should pop it out of the back, and then carefully peel the cables that are connected from the home button to the screen, just like we did with the front-facing camera, etc. Peel it, disconnect it, and just make sure not to rip it. Put the plastic pieces back where they go, up at the top of the screen, but this time now on the new screen, of course. Then stick the cables back down for the front camera. Usually you can line up this one with the metal thing on it. It has a tiny hole that a pin goes through. You can line that up first, put that down, bend back part of this cable, put in the earpiece, bend that back over so that the metal pieces, the 4 dots on that, touch the 4 metal conductors on the earpiece. Then put the camera over that and make sure it fits into its little slot where the plastic piece was, and finally put the metal bracket back on top and screw that back in. Next, we can put the home button on the new screen by just sticking it face down and then laying the home button cable down, and make sure to reconnect the connector at the end of it, otherwise your Touch ID won't work. Then we can screw the metal bracket over the home button and put the metal backing for the screen over the flap of cable hanging down so that it sits under the backing. Put in the 8 screws that we took out to then secure the metal bracket back down. Now the new screen should look like the old screen did, and we can connect it back to the motherboard. To do that, we're going to line it up against the motherboard and connect the connectors for the screen back to the motherboard. Make sure that they snap into place and that you're doing the right ones. If you put them on the wrong ones, you could break them and kind of ruin everything. Once those are connected properly, turn on the phone so that we can make sure the screen works really quick. So long as that works, we can reattach the metal bracket for the screen, screw that down, then lay the screen back down on the phone from the top to the bottom, carefully applying pressure along the edges and working your way up. Just be very careful. If it feels like it's too much pressure, you might break something, back off, open it up, put it back down again, and just try to be careful not to crack the new screen. After that, we can then put the 2 hex screws back in and turn the phone on, use the touch screen, check the selfie camera, all that fun stuff to make sure that everything works. And there you go. You can now make a phone call on it, check the front camera, check Touch ID, make sure that everything is working. If any of those things are not working, you're gonna have to open the phone back up and just check the connections on those things. Happens once in a while. You might have to do that a couple of times depending on how quick you were trying to do this. But that's it. Once everything works, you're all set. So I hope you guys liked that video, and if you did, please thumbs up it or share it. It is greatly appreciated. And if you want more tech videos, I do more than just repairs, check out the channel. There's a link around here somewhere. And if you like what you see there, please subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.